Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Could I please have Raul Granillo from Mercy Springs Church come forward for the opening prayer?
Father, I pray this evening that your presence would be among us. Lord, I lift up each of these people, each of these women and men who serve you, who serve this city and these people, Father, your people. And so I pray tonight, Father, that you would just give them your wisdom, your heart, your discernment, even your love for your people, so that everything that they do, Father, would be done from a place where they desire the best, where they genuinely just want to bring light into this world. I pray, Father, that you would give them wisdom, that in these tasks that come up, Father, as difficult as they are, that you would give them discernment to make the difficult choices, to do whatever it is that is required to be done, Father, so that this city can thrive, so that these people can grow, so that life can even be brought here into Los Banos, Father. I pray an anointing upon each one of them, Father. I pray that you would protect them and their families and in all things, Lord. I pray that you would give them a heart for these people. And I know that all of them already do, Father, since they're already here serving. But I pray that even now, Lord, that you would just exponentially make that greater, that their heart for this community would show so much that even when they make decisions that the people are not exactly happy with, Father, they will realize that it comes from a place of grace, a place of love, and a place where we desire only the best. So tonight, Father, guide them all in all that they do. Guide their speech, their hearts, their minds, Father. And I pray, Lord, that even this community, you would speak to them, that they would lift up all of the staff, all those who serve them here, Lord, that they would lift them up in prayer and always desire the best for them. May we always be an encouragement to them and they to us. May they inspire us to serve as you have called us, Lord. And we pray this in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of June 20th, 2018. And Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's go on to item 3, roll call. Director Maloney.
Maria.
Here.
Johnson Santos. Lewis. Silvera. Peralta.
Here, we do have a quorum. Go on to item number 4, consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion? Mr. Faria.
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mrs. Lewis.
Second.
Moved by Faria, second by Lewis to approve the agenda as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Let's go on to item 5, presentations. Introduce Los Banos Fire Department new employees. And Chief Hurley, would you come forward, please?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I want to take an opportunity real fast to recognize some individuals within our department that in the last year we've been able to promote and also hire. Since the retirement of Chief Marison in the end of September, our department's been very busy working to fill the positions and promote within or find the best people to fill those positions. And I have a group here tonight. I'd like for Assistant Chief Robert Strock, Captain Sawyer, and Firefighter Juan to please come up, please. So other than just introducing this crew of individuals that does fantastic things for our community and our department, I want to take an opportunity real quick to thank the council. I would like to thank City Manager Alex Terrazas and HR Department, City Clerk Lucy and Sonia Williams with Finance for allowing us to keep moving forward in a direction our department needs to do and recognize the hard work that our employees do for our department. So right next to me is Assistant Chief Robert Strock. Robert joined our department back in 2002. He has many years of service with our department. We worked hand in hand for over the years. both promoted to captain from Measure P, and I was proud that Robert was selected. And the work that he's done since his promotion is fantastic. So, Robert, thank you, and we look forward to continuing that. And next to Robert is Zach Sawyer. Zach was promoted to fire captain after the promotion of Chief Strock. Zach has been started our department as a volunteer in 2003. He, like everybody here, has gone out and done their education, got the qualifications that they need to meet our standard of excellence within our department. Zach is in the process of finishing his bachelor's degree, and also Chief Strock is also doing that. And again, Zach, congratulations on your promotion. We've done the badge pinnings. We're moving forward. Zach is already moving forward with a lot of projects within our department that we need to do, need to improve, and just keep doing the things that we do. Between Zach and Juan is another individual that's not here tonight because his son had an all-star baseball game, is Josh Howdekamer. And if Josh was here, I'd have to put him in the back because he's a tall individual. He's very outgoing. He's very involved with our department. And Josh was hired in 2001. Joined our department in 2001. And he was very energetic. He was promoted to engineer after Captain Sawyer's promotion. Looking forward to the things that Josh is going to do. He's very outgoing. He gets people motivated, and I see a great future for Josh. And then next to Zach here is Juan Ramirez. Juan became a volunteer with our department in 2011. In the last 7 years, he's done the training, done the education, has become a leader within the organization, has been a mentor to our newer volunteers. Last few years, he's worked seasonal for CAL FIRE. He has a lot of good experience in the education that we need to continue us moving forward in a positive direction. So again, Juan, congratulations. We did Juan's badge pinning last Friday morning here in the council chambers. And so just wanted to introduce you to them. They're here. They've been here. They're familiar faces, but I know that they're going to do great things for you in the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Chief, for the introductions. And congratulations on your promotions, and also to our newest firefighter. Thank you. All right, let's go on to item B, update regarding illegal fireworks by Fire Chief Hurley and Police Chief Breezy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As we approach the 4th of July holiday, the Fire Chief, Chief Hurley, and I would like to take a moment to discuss how to celebrate safely, to remind everyone that there are local laws in regards to the use of fireworks, and to remind people that some of those fines that are associated with the illegal use of fireworks can be very hefty. So we'll go ahead and we have a really brief PowerPoint presentation, Mayor, that we'll go through.
All right, let's try this. Okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about two different types of fireworks in regards to this presentation. There's safe and sane fireworks, and then there are basically all others. Safe and sane fireworks are designated by the state fire marshal seal. If you see that on your firework, they are safe and legal to discharge in the city of Los Banos within certain parameters. So if you have fireworks that have that seal on it, you're okay, as long as you're following the rest of the rules that we're going to talk about here shortly. If your firework does not have that state seal on it, it is an illegal firework within the city of Los Banos, and the fines for possession and discharge of those fireworks is $1,250 per firework potentially. So if you have 6 aerial fireworks that you're about to set off when you're celebrating with your friends, I don't know what the math is for 6 fireworks times $1,250, but it's a lot of money. So we're going to try and encourage people not to get into the middle of using illegal fireworks in our community. And Fire Chief Hurley is going to talk about some of the dangers and safe ways to celebrate with fireworks after I'm done concluding my portion of the presentation. First up, safe and sane fireworks is what we're going to talk about. So safe and sane fireworks can be discharged purchased, sold in the city of Los Banos, well, let me back that up, can be discharged in the city of Los Banos between July 1st and July 4th. So between July 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., you can light off safe and sane fireworks within the city of Los Banos. In fact, there's going to be a number of booths around town that you can purchase them from legally. So that's rule number one. July 1st to July 4th, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., you can discharge safe and sane fireworks. The second bullet point there talks about where you can discharge those fireworks. Very specific. You can only discharge safe and sane fireworks in between those days and times on private property. So it means you can't go to your neighbor's house and discharge them without his consent. You can't go to a parking lot. You can't go to a vacant lot down the street. Can't do any of that. It has to be on private property that you have the consent of the owner to discharge those safe and sane fireworks. Remember, if it does not have the safe and sane seal, it's illegal at any point in time, and none of these rules apply to you. Next, you have to be 18 in order to discharge safe and sane fireworks unless you have parental guidance and you have someone over the age of 18 there standing by you to supervise and guide you through the discharge of safe and sane fireworks. It is illegal, in the first bullet point, it's illegal for someone under the age of 18 to purchase safe and sane fireworks. And under that last bullet point, again, just reiterating the fact that it is completely illegal, regardless of date, regardless of time, to discharge any firework in the city limits of Los Banos that does not have the safe and sane seal on it. So just kind of to recap, all of the safe and sane violations, if you're under 18 and you're just out with your buddies rolling around town on the 4th of July weekend and you think it's going to be fun to let off a safe and sane firework because you think it's okay, it's not. You have to worry about being under 18 without the adult supervision right next to you to make sure you're doing it safely. And if you're not on private property and you don't have the owner's consent, that's 2 different fines you can get cited for. And both of those carry a $50 citation. If you're doing it outside the date and time range, if it's the 31st or the 5th, or it's 11 o'clock at night on the 1st through the 4th, if we get a call at the police department, we're going to go out and investigate it. If we determine that you've used a safe and sane firework outside of the hours, outside of the days, you are liable to get a citation as it indicates here for a $50 fine. Again, it is completely illegal to discharge any fireworks on public property, safe and sane. Again, private property with owner's consent. Dangerous fireworks, never. And I keep repeating the same things over because it's really important for us to get the message out that safe and sane fireworks have rules. We just talked about them. The 1st to the 4th, between 9 a.m. and 10. If you're under 18, you have to have parental guidance. It has to be on private property. Can't be in a parking lot, can't be in someone else's property. It has to be private property that you have the consent of the owner in order to discharge those fireworks. Again, last before I turn it over to Fire Chief Hurley, if it does not have the state fire marshal seal, it is not a safe and sane firework. If it does not have that seal, it is illegal to discharge at any given point in time in the city of Los Banos. And the fine that goes along with the discharge, the possession of the sale, any of the things that have to do with a dangerous firework is $1,250 for each firework potentially. So enforcement, I know that'll come up. We will have extra staff out for the 4th of July conducting enforcement. I think we issued 15 citations last year. You might see a drone or 2 up in the air at night. We're testing that out now to see if that's going to be an effective tool to be out and enforce our rules. And I think that is all. Do you have any questions about this presentation? Oh, the other part is pretty soon, it'd be either today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow at this point, we will be doing our social media blitz in regards to what I just talked about, to get the rules out, to let people know what safe and sane is, what's not safe and sane, when you can do it, how you can do it, all the rules that have to do with the use of fireworks, because there is a lot of safety concerns that go along with the detonation of fireworks. So,
Do you want to wait till we have Chief Hurley's presentation? And if you have any questions, we can Okay, you want to talk now? Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, over the past several years, since we've had this program, is there any particular part of our city that seems to be more in violation than others? Or is it just kind of overall?
I don't want to say that there is, for a couple reasons. I think I have seen them scattered around town. If I look out my house from my vantage point, I can see them to the south of 152, and I've seen them to the north.
Okay.
So I know last week we issued a citation, I'm sorry, just the other day, on Sunday, we issued a citation for a guy. Real quick story. We got a call of someone shooting off illegal fireworks on the street, on a particular street. Our officer drove by, did not see anything, but he got on his PA, because there were people outside, and said, hey, it's a $1,500 fine or $1,250 fine if you let off illegal fireworks. He kept driving down the street, came back around, looped around again, and as he did that, he watched a young man out in the middle of the street trying to light off illegal fireworks. And so that young man got himself a $1,250 citation. So to answer your question, anymore these days, I don't know that there's any one particular point or area or neighborhood that's any more disruptive than any other.
Okay, thank you.
Have any other questions right now? Okay, Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Breezy. I wanted to go over just some of the safety aspects that we have. We do allow the sale of safe and sane fireworks in town. There are booths going to be scattered around the community, starting to sell on the 29th, basically a 7-day period. And Chief Breezy's information regarding the ability to light them off, not until the 1st, will be enforced, and the booths will be handing out information with safety guidelines and some of the rules and all the rules that we have that are tied with them. But in regards to safety, last year from the time of right around 8 o'clock to about 11 o'clock, we responded to 7 fire calls. These are grass fires, rubbish fires, vehicle fire, large tree next to houses catching on fire, and they all involved people lighting fireworks. Probably most of them were probably from illegal fireworks because the location. I know other than one that came from a garbage can that I'll talk about that in regard to safety, but we want everybody to enjoy their time on the 4th, but just be aware that the use of alcohol and drugs and using these safe and sane fireworks is extremely dangerous. People do get hurt because if they get reckless, and that's how accidents happen. I'd like to say, never let your children handle the fireworks or play with the fireworks or lighting it at any time. Adult supervision is extremely important. It says that on the instructions on the fireworks. It's going to be there. We just want to make sure that children are safe. Never aim or point or throw a firework at any other person. Sounds pretty like common sense, but when you combine a crowd and include the parties and the other activities that go on, these things do happen. I just want to remind everybody that we need to think about our actions. Do not light the fireworks in an area where there is dry grass, brush that could catch fire. Where we have empty vacant lots in town, we have people's backyards that do have dry grass. We have been very busy with weed abatement, but a small piece of grass next to a house that's dry, even mowed, can still catch fire and can still spread to a fence and continue on. Always be cautious of lighting the fireworks during the windy conditions. We're all aware of the wind that we have here in Los Banos, and that plays a major factor in the direction that the fireworks move, and also if a fire starts, how that fire spreads. Do not light fireworks near or in the proximity of flammable liquids or other flammable items. It's again, common sense, but we just want to remind people if their garages are open or just in regards to the things around you, be safe. Always keep your head and your body away from the item that is going to be lit. Don't look into the tube. Don't, we want to make sure that we keep our body, we light it with an extended device. The booths that are selling the fireworks, they will give you or sell with their purchases what's called a punk, and it's a large. It looks like the old sparklers, but they're just a lighting device to keep your hands and your face away from the fireworks that you're lighting off. And only light one firework at a time. We don't want this to turn into a major display and cause some bigger issues. Never attempt to relight a firework that didn't light. If it's a dud, it's a dud. Put it in water, let it soak, and then you throw it away later. Have a working fire extinguisher available, a garden hose, a bucket of water, and just any type of other types of water buckets, garden hose, water extinguishers available in case of an emergency. And this one here, immerse your used fireworks in a bucket or water after you use. We continuously will run calls after everyone's gone to bed for their garbage cans that catch on fire, whether next to a house or out in the street, because they'll throw their used fireworks in the garbage can. They still are smoldering a little bit, and they light the garbage can on fire. So, and that one of the fires we had last year involved a vehicle. There was a garbage can in the back of it. They were done, cleaned up their stuff, set it in the back of a pickup, and it lit off. Lit trees next to it, and the vehicle was totaled. It was away from a structure, luckily, but it can cause a lot of damage by not making sure that these things are completely out. This item, just as a reminder, the fireworks that go on, whether it's illegal or legal, make a lot of noise, and it scares our pets. We want to make sure that you take care of your animals first, do what you need to do to make sure that they're secure and they're comfortable, and just handle them accordingly. Never use your fireworks indoors. Seems pretty simple to do. Just as a reminder, and always store your fireworks in a cool, dry place, well out of the reach of your children. We don't want children to grab them, take off down the street, and cause an issue. We will hold the individuals responsible if they light something off and it causes damage to other property. We do take this serious. I'm hoping that this 4th of July is enjoyable to everybody. I'm hoping that it's safe for everybody. Last year we had an individual hurt themselves very seriously because they weren't using it correctly, whether it's safe or illegal. But I just wanted to remind everybody that we can use these things. We do allow the safe and sane in the city. And if you're going to do so, please remember to be safe. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and take care of your neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiefs, for the presentation. Council members, are there any questions? Oh, you've covered everything. Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, let's go on to item 6, public forum. Members of the public may address the city council members on any item of interest that is within the jurisdiction of the city council, which includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the council chamber informational table. When you approach the podium, please state your name and city of residence, and if you have a cell phone, please turn them off or place them on vibrate. Is there anyone who would like to speak at the public forum?
Yes, my name is Stan Silva. I'm a resident of the city of Los Banos. And Scott, congratulations on your job. I came to work for the city of Los Banos in 1982. And I pulled the plug in 2012. When I came to work here, the thing that the wages weren't very good, but the lifetime medical was something that was really something that got our attention, and we worked hard and we educated ourselves and we continued going forward, and we turned down jobs from East Bay Mud and these other places, even though they paid a lot better, and it penciled out to go, but it was that lifetime medical. So we had an expectation, And 2012, I mean, we held our end of the deal. So I just felt it was a reasonable expectation, that it continued. And I didn't expect to read that thing where it said something about caps, putting a cap on it. That wasn't part of the deal. So I just feel like it's rather discriminatory. And at our age, we don't have that luxury of recouping, things that come along. As Mr. Mayor knows, we're closer to, unless we plan on living until 136 years old, we're closer to the grave than we are from the starting gate. No offense intended, but, that's just how it is. And I don't think any one of you guys would really like it if you go to pick up your paycheck or your retirement check, and they decided not to get it, to give it to you. It's a reasonable expectation. Now, whether it's a paycheck or whether it's a benefit, it's still there. So no offense intended, but it's just something I don't agree with, and I feel like it's discriminatory, and I just wanted you guys to know where I'm coming from. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at the public forum?
Good evening, Council. Kyle Loretta with Republic Services. How are you today? First off, I just wanted to kind of touch on what the chief says. When you are disposing of your fireworks and soaking them out for 10 minutes or longer, please make sure those go in the trash and not recycling. Although they are made of cardboard, they are not recyclable. So, but the reason I'm here today is I want to introduce you to your recycling coordinator. As you know, Mr. Limon is now the operations supervisor here in Los Banos, and taking his position previously as recycling coordinator is Jennifer Joaquin, and I just want to introduce you to her. She's been on board for several weeks now, gotten very familiar with many of the businesses here, and so I just wanted to introduce her to you.
Hi, good evening, Council. Mayor Jennifer
evening.
Joaquin with Republic Services. Just wanted to let everybody know how important recycling is here in the city of Los Banos. Summertime's here, so it means we're obviously making more trash. We have more kids at home. We're having family barbecues. So just want to make sure that everybody understands what is a recyclable, what goes in the trash. We do have a lot of overflow, so myself and the drivers and Eric are trying to make sure that we're keeping the streets clean. Also doing a lot of education with the residential and commercial, just letting everybody know what the difference is between trash and recycling. Thank you.
Well, maybe we could have you come back and have an agendized item so you could go over the ground rules again with all our citizens. And it'd probably be important to remind everyone every so often what's a recyclable and what's not.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at the public forum? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum and go on to item 7, consideration of approval of a consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, be voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. Tonight we have Director Malney.
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 211000 through 211178 in the amount of $557,993.65. Minutes for the June 6, 2018 City Council meeting. City Council Resolution Number 5971, authorizing the Public Works Director to sign master agreement and future agreements relating to state and federal transportation projects. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Is there anyone who wishes to remove a consent agenda item for discussion? If not, do I have a motion? Mrs. Santos.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as stated by title.
Mrs. Lewis.
Second.
Motion by Santos, second by Lewis to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Item 8, public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Item 8A, public hearing, to receive public comment and consideration on the appropriation limitation for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. And item 8A1, City Council Resolution Number 5972, setting the tax-related appropriation limit in compliance with Proposition 4 and Proposition 111 for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. And we're going to go to Director Williams. Oh, you moved. Okay, there we go.
Good evening, Mayor. I do have a PowerPoint presentation
All right.
for this item.
All right, hang on.
So-
Let me get this for you.
Okay.
There we go.
As part of the budget process, we are required to adopt the appropriation limit on an annual basis. So under the gain limit, it's either called GAN appropriations limit, GAN limit, appropriations limit. There's a bunch of different terms for it. But under the GAN limit, a maximum amount is established for tax-funded government services. This amount is to be adjusted each year depending on changes in population, inflation, and our tax proceeds. And the proceeds of taxes include things for tax revenue, investments in earnings, and tax proceeds on fees and services charged by the city. The appropriations limit calculation is adjusted by two factors. The first factor is the change in the cost of living, and this is the number provided by the Department of Finance. And you can see that here on the chart. It's a little bit hard to read, but it's in column A, change in California per capita cost of living, or cost of living is 1.0367. And then the second thing that we're required to adjust it by is the change in population, whichever is larger, whether it's the county's increase is larger or the city's increase is larger. And in this case, this year, the city's increase was larger, and that rate is 1.0244%. So our appropriations limit is only at 18% of the limitation, and therefore will not be impacted by the appropriations limit. Our appropriations limit is $87 million. Proceeds of taxes, $15.7 million. So we don't have a problem. We're not bringing in enough money to be concerned at this point. But we are required by law to hold a public hearing on this matter, select an inflation and population by recorded vote, which we have chosen the requirements, like I stated again, that would be the California per capita cost of living and the population for the city of Los Banos this year, and adopt the attached resolution. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
All right. Are there anyone who has a question of Mrs. Williams? Mrs. Lewis?
That was
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. We have to do the public hearing. Let's now. Let's go back here. All right. All right, let's open the public hearing on City Council Resolution Number 5972. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to council level, and let's go here, here, here. Okay, and do I have a motion? Mr. Freya?
I'll move to adopt City Council Resolution Number 5972 as read by title.
Okay, do I have a second? Mrs. Lewis?
second.
Okay, motion by Faria, second by Lewis, to adopt City Council Resolution 5972 as read by title. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? None carried. All right, let's go on to item B, public hearing, to receive comment and consideration 2018-2019 fiscal year budget. Item B1, City Council Resolution Number 5973, adopting a 2018-2019 year budget, including employee salary schedule, Division 4, personnel benefits, Division 5, education incentive pay, Division 5H, and Los Banos Policy and Procedures Manual, capital improvement plan, and commit funds for public safety fleet maintenance. And we're going to go back to Finance Director Williams.
Thank you again. I do have a presentation.
All right. It didn't go on. There we go.
Not
Okay,
in the
okay.
same detail that we discussed it at the May 29th workshop. Tonight, we'll just basically do an overview. We'll give any updates to changes that we might have made between the workshop and now. Summary of increases, a couple increases that we had to the budget. And then additionally, the attachments that the mayor mentioned, will be approving the salary schedule, changes to health insurance benefits, and an increase to education incentive. So just to briefly touch on general fund revenues, we did talk in great length about the amount of revenues that we were bringing in, and I just kind of wanted to give you guys a graphic on what that means to the city. And so as you can see, the large blue area, 41% of the revenues that are brought in are because of property taxes. The next highest amount is the red area at 29%, and that increase is, or that's sales taxes. Property taxes did increase over last year from 39% of the budget, and now they're 41% of the budget. So we have seen a slight increase. Plus, historically, with the costs, we did increase our revenues by 6% this year, and usually we're around 2 to 4%. So we are anticipating it a little higher than we normally are. The next highest revenue are charges for service at 12%, other revenues at 8%, licenses at 5%. That is down from the prior year. And then other taxes, is basically TOT tax. And so just to give you a graphic picture of what the revenues look like, and we are anticipating to bring in a little bit over $15 million in revenues for this fiscal year. So I wanted to do the same thing with expenditures, and I did this by department, the measurements by department. As you can see, police is at 57% of the budget, and that's actually a decrease of 2% from the prior year. The next largest one is fire at 11% for this year, which is status quo with last year. And that's due to the changes in staffing. So basically, we had a cost savings in some of the changes in staffing. So there were overall increases to the fire budget, but because of the changes in staffing, it dropped it down at the same time. Admin is at 9%, and that's increased generally because we have an election this year. And we are doing a special project out of that budget, the PAL Felts. CEDD, which is Community and Economic Development Department, is at 6% this year, which is status quo with last year. And then we have maintenance, which is 5% for the year, and that's status quo with the prior years. And again, just as a reminder, you don't see the community center on here because we took the community center and combined it with recreation. So we're at 4% for this year, and combining them also last year is the same. So a summary of the increases for the overall budget is there is a 7 to 8% increase in electricity and gas. We have a slight increase in liability and workers' comp insurance. We did build into the budget an increase in salaries and benefits for unrepresented employees, and that's a COLA increase of 2.5%, which we'll talk about a little bit later in more detail. Minimum wage is also going up for part-time, for anybody. Minimum wage is increasing beginning January 1, so we'll have that increase in there as well. As you remember, employees, if they are still stepping, that step increases are at 5%. It is a merit-based increase. And then specific to departments, we have some personnel increases to consulting and technical services. The personnel increases were we added the code enforcement officer to the police department and a CSO to animal control. So from a part-time, we eliminated a part-time position in animal control and made it a full-time position. Other increases include technical services, and that was mainly in the planning department, and they will be working on a master plan ordinance, an annexation ordinance, and the general plan update. And then for vehicles and equipment, one of the larger purchases in this line item would be police vehicles, and that's the set aside that we did for both police and fire. Police will be spending theirs. It's $100,000, and they have $15,000 estimated to be left over from this current year. So they're anticipating to spend the whole amount, and then fire's $100,000 will just be set aside in the pot to gather more money. So balancing the budget, revenues for the year are estimated to be $15.7 million. Expenditures are estimated at $15.8 million, which gives us a deficit of $86,000. We will be utilizing the reserves to balance the budget. However, we do have a one-time expenditure that we don't obviously anticipate for next year of $300,000. That means our operating surplus, we have an operating surplus. That means our ongoing amount that if we were to take that out, would we have a surplus or a deficit? In this instance, we would have a surplus of approximately $213,000 for the year. So utilizing the general fund balance, the mayor did ask about this at the budget workshop and what we did do with the general fund balance. So just kind of wanted to give you an overview. We have committed funds in the past for both police and fire for vehicles and also for planning for their general plan update because we did commit to a 3-year contract. We are anticipating, and tonight in your resolution is to commit another $200,000 for $100 for each police and fire to be used for vehicles. And that gives us a committed fund balance at the end of the year of $327,000. So we'll increase it, but then we'll also spend some of it. So our ending fund balance when 18-19 fiscal year is over is anticipated to be $327,000. We also have assigned funding, which we have set aside for things like our PERS policy to help pay down our UAL payments or to afford the new payments under the new amortization schedule. We also set aside money for infrastructure and equipment needs. We anticipate to spend about $147,000 of that money this year. And in doing that, then that will give us a $3.6 million fund balance at the end of the year. And again, those things are utilized for mainly for infrastructure and equipment needs. And the PERS annual set aside is $1 million. So there is $1 million in there for PERS, which we will most likely bring back to council this year to make the ULA payments. Once we receive the amortization schedule and we know what position we're in, we'll come back to council and ask to spend that money. And then as far as the general fund balance goes, the unassigned funds, we are required to maintain 30% of the reserve, and 30% of that reserve is $4.9 million. And so the remainder of that reserve is allowed to, is basically unrestricted at this point, and that's about $3.2 million. But just to keep in mind, we still have a lot of things that we do need to fund, and we'll go over CIP a little bit later, but just in the general fund alone, we do have CIP projects and equipment needs just for the next 5 years of $12 million. We have only funded $2 million of that. So obviously there's a great need, and there are things that this remaining fund balance can be utilized for. So that pretty much summarizes the general fund. If anybody has any questions about the general fund, otherwise I could move on.
Okay, are there any questions at this time?
Okay.
Let's go on.
So I mentioned coming back to council and paying down the unfunded liability for PERS. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of example of what that would look like, because we've talked about it a lot, but you've never had the visualization of what it would look like. And we've been working with PERS, and they provided us this spreadsheet that somewhat works. So finance was kind of pulling her hair out today trying to get this to work. But this is, the blue line is our current payment. So this is if we did nothing and we continued on, excuse me, this is for miscellaneous tier 1. I just pulled them out to use them as an example. So the blue line is what our current payment would be beginning in 18-19 and going on for the next 10 years. If we made a $500,000 payment in the middle of the year, the red line represents what the change would be. So you do see a little gap there, and it's not a $500,000 payment doesn't just change your payment for the year. It gets spread out over the 30 years, and in a few years it'll be over the 20 years. But basically, the first drop would be about a savings of $9,000 in the first year, and that's because the way PERS requires us to do it, the payment has to be made at mid-year. So we see half the savings, and then the savings increases over the years. So it goes to about 19,000 to 30,000 to 42,000 to 54,000 and on and on. Right now, for this specific plan, our unfunded liability is a little bit over $11 million. So at the time of this payment, our balance would be $11.3 million. Making this $500,000 payment saves us a little over $500,000 over the lifetime of the 30-year lifetime. However, each $500,000 payment costs about 0.5%. So every $500,000 that I make is going to save us about 0.5%, if that makes sure. Scott, you had asked me that before, and so I was trying to provide that information. Of course, that number is going to change. The more we pay, it's going to go down, and so that 0.4% will increase.
And that's only because PERS has stepped up the payments
And that's, yes, because the discount payment changed, and this is taking that into consideration.
from 30 to 20 years?
No, that we haven't calculated.
Okay.
Calculated yet. We have not received the new amortization
Okay.
schedules for that, so this isn't taking that into account. This is taking the discount rate into account.
All right. Okay.
So dropping the discount rate, that takes that into account. And just as an overview.
I have one question.
Okay.
Not I, but Mr. Freya.
Oh, could this be, think of it as paying a little extra on your mortgage every month?
Exactly, that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, shortens the term, thanks.
Okay.
So I just really quickly looked at safety. Any questions? And safety tier 1 is relatively close to what miscellaneous 1 is. If you remember last year, I talked about safety paying down their side fund. That big dip is miscellaneous paying down their side fund. So safety's balance is a little over $10 million. We take the other half of the money, the $500,000, and make a payment to them. It's still going to be about $510,000 savings over the 30 years, and it's also about 0.5% for each $500,000. So we haven't made this payment yet because we are anticipating we were hoping to get the new amortization schedule in June. We're waiting to find out what our new payment is going to be. Is it going to increase by a lot of money? If so, we'd rather take the $1 million and set that aside to pay for the increase in payments. However, if it's something that we can handle, then we're going to take the $1 million and pay down the UAL. And the point of doing this is to kind of stabilize the rate. So that's our goal, is to stabilize the rate. Instead of seeing large increases every year, we're kind of trying to control the rate to the best that we can. So obviously, the more money that we can throw at PERS, the better we can control the rate. But we're trying to be fiscally responsible with everything else while we do that. So moving on to the other funds, a summary of increases for the other funds are we did increase capital improvements for the land purchase of the hopefully future PD site over here by the courthouse. And also included in that amount are needs assessment and CEQA for cost. We also have some vehicle and specialized equipment purchases. The vehicle would be paid out of the traffic safety account. That would be a police patrol vehicle for approximately $45,000. And if you remember, a mobile license plate reader for approximately $60,000. We will be working on a dog park, and this is the design phase of that dog park. And we'll be also completing Olivera Park this year, and that's going to cost about an additional $30,000 to finish up Olivera Park. And then we will be adding additional parking to the community center, and that is going to be paid with impact fees, community center impact fees, and that costs approximately $500,000. Here's a little overview of the Measure P for police. The blue line are the revenues that we're bringing in, and the red line are the expenditures that are going out. We're doing really well right now, which is exciting because the difference is what we're allowed to set aside for capital projects. And this money will be used to help fund the new police station. We're hoping to bond out, and this will be making part of the payment. And I just wanted to mention that we do talk a lot about Measure A and Measure K and how they funded people, but Measure P was also intended to fund employees. And in the police department, the permanent personnel in that department are 3 police officers, 1 CSO, one crime analyst, and a half of an admin clerk. Measure P Fire is also doing relatively well. We've got a little ups and downs, but that's because they've had some projects there. We did the MDC project last year, so we did spend quite a bit of money with that. But they're also doing a good job. Again, the revenues are in blue, the expenditures are in red. We're anticipating to bring in $1.2 million this year and spend approximately $1 million. And future projects for this account include the fuel canopy. If you remember, they put a fueling station out there. They're eventually going to pave it and put a canopy over the top. And then also this fund will be utilized to pay for a training tower. And the permanent personnel in Measure P for Fire include 3 engineers, 4 firefighters, and also half of an admin clerk. Okay. Moving on to the enterprise funds. This is basically just an overview of how their budget is broken down, and this is the water fund. We're spending about 32% on personnel, 32% on supplies and services, 34% on capital outlay, and then we do have a small contingency fund in case of an emergency, and that's 2%, and we really never utilize it. The wastewater fund is a little bit different here. We are spending 18% on personnel, 16% on supplies and services, and then 61% on capital outlay, and that's because we do have several projects planned. If you remember the ones that we went over last year at the workshop for wastewater fund. Solid waste is 73% on supplies and services. Seems like I might have put the wrong amount there. Personnel is $1.2 million, or 18% of the budget. Again, they do also have a contingency fund in case of an emergency. And capital outlays for projects is $169,000, or 2% of the budget. Can you take that for me? So moving on to the landscape and lighting districts. We talk about this a lot. There are 18 districts within the city. 3 of the districts are currently operating with a negative fund balance. But there are signs of improvement. At the last council meeting on June 6th, council did approve for increases in 16 districts. Some of those were the increases that were allowed up to either 5% or 10%, and a few of them were for just cost of living increases. And then the district projects that we have going on this year include a picnic arbor being installed in Crest Hills. And then both Jolin Manor and Stone Creek Villages are doing landscape improvements. And one of the questions that we did have last year, or I don't know why I keep on saying that, at the budget workshop was what is the general fund paying for non-districts, and that's $777,000. And then finally, we do have 3 internal services fund, fleet maintenance, and they have an annual budget of $846,000. These funds, all 3 of these funds are charged out to other funds citywide, including general fund, enterprise funds, and some of the special revenue funds. Maintenance is responsible for all the fleet in the city with the exception of the fire equipment. And that includes about 136 vehicles, 138 motorized equipment, and 5 electric vehicles. IT, or information technologies, they have an annual budget this year of $572,000. They will be working on some pretty big projects this year, including our phone system update and network and server updates for the police department. And then finally, retirees medical health is about $1.8 million payment annually, and this funds all retired employee benefits, OPEB, and so the exciting part that everybody is waiting for, the personnel adjustments. So we are tonight proposing in this budget, and this is only for non-represented employees. We're still in negotiations with with all of the bargaining units, all of the represented units. We are asking council to approve a 2.5% COLA increase for all non-represented employees, including management. We are adding that full-time code enforcement officer position. You'll see on the salary schedule to add the new position, and you'll also see adding the full-time CSO position. We are asking, or on the salary schedule, also see, we are not asking because it's a mandate, to increase minimum wages to $12 an hour effective January 1st, 2019. We are also asking to revise health insurance premium cap. If you notice, there is a corrected Division 5 personnel benefits in front of you, hopefully. The change in this is in regards to retirees. So we did get our health insurance rates yesterday, and that was good news for the city and for the employees. And so we did some changes, and this isn't going to, at this point, we're not going to change anything with the retirees because our attorney, our HR attorney was here yesterday, and she did inform us that in order to do so, we first had to do an actuarial. And the actuarial needs to be presented by the consultant that performs the actuary. And once that's presented, then if necessary, rates for retirees can be changed. The only thing that would be changed and what we're requesting is not a new cap on health insurance. We currently have a cap on health insurance benefits for both retirees and for employees. What we're asking to change is that cap currently lists that it is a Blue Shield HMO. We're asking to put a specific dollar amount to that cap instead of just a plan. And that plan, we found out yesterday, went up by 9.21%, but the cap that we're asking for is a 10% increase. So the specific dollar amount is actually more than what that the current cap's at, a little less than 1%. But we are asking for that increase in the cap. We offer 5 HMOs. There's currently 5 HMO plans available to, and I'm just going to talk about the current employees now because we're not making any changes to the retirees. So this, again, does not affect the retirees, and I'm only speaking specifically in regards to current employees. So there are 5 HMO plans currently available, 4 of which fall under the cap, the revised cap. There are also 3 PPOs currently available, 2 of which fall under the cap. So there are plans out there that are affordable. If an employee chooses to be on one of the higher plans for whatever reason, then they would at that point be required to pick up the difference. So that is one of the changes that we're asking for. And again, if you do approve this, I ask you to approve the corrected Division 5 personnel benefits. And then another incentive increase that we're offering to non-represented employees is to increase their degrees by 25. Scott, do you have a question?
Yeah, just really quick, Sonia. Can you explain, I did get a few questions about when we talk about that capping, instead of it being capped by a specific plan, it's now capped by a dollar amount. But when we say that that dollar amount is capped, that doesn't mean that that dollar amount's going to stay the same forever.
No, sorry, it doesn't. Currently, right now, we review that on an annual basis. When the rates come out, we look at that and we see if we need to make any changes. In the last several years, we haven't changed the Blue Shield cap. This year, we're just asking, instead of tying it to a name, and if you do read through the language on the retirees, it gets very confusing because sometimes that plan doesn't become available and then we have to go to the next lowest plan and it gets very convoluted. So we are asking to put a dollar amount to that and it will still be reviewed on an annual basis. The rates don't go into effect until January. This year we were lucky, we got the rates before the budget came out. If that happens again, then if we need to bring it back and increase it, then and we can afford the increase, we'll bring that back to council again next year. It will be done on an annual basis like it is now.
Okay, 'cause that was, some of the concerns that I heard out there is that, I'll just, for example of a number, I don't know that this is correct. If you would have set that cap at $1,000 10 years ago, and today with the cost of healthcare going up, it's $2,500, they would be, they'd be paying a lot more, where I think that's what people were concerned about, that cap, whatever that number you capped it at, was going to stay indefinitely. And so I'm glad that it's basically, we're doing the same thing as we've always done, review it annually, but we're doing it based upon a number and not based upon a plan.
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then another incentive increase was any a degree, whether it's an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or a master's degree, will get an increase of $25 a month for their degree. Did you have a question, Deborah? Oh, I thought you. Okay. Okay, so those changes are all attached. There are 3 different packages, the salary schedule, and then 2 parts of our employee policy. And then also included in your budget workbook is the capital improvement plan. And the capital improvement plan is both for infrastructure and equipment needs. And again, this is the information that we have for the next 5 years. So these are projects or equipment that the departments have said that they will need in the next 5 years. And then what this chart is showing you is basically the green is the total amount of money that we need, and the blue is what is funded. So the first column is for the general fund, and again, we're anticipating $12.5 million, and we have funded so far for the next 5 years, doesn't mean it can't change, $2 million. Impact fees, and this is just kind of combining all the impact fees in a summary basis, so whether it's a park impact fee, a police impact fee, regardless of what it is, it's grouped together here. Our needs are $8 million, and our needs are over $18 million, and our funding available is $3 million. Water projects, and the next 3 are for enterprise fund projects, so that's the whole point of an enterprise fund, is you bring in the money and you have to spend it out, so those basically should be fully funded, and they're relatively close. And basically, the reason why they're not completely funded is because maybe on the 6th year, they're going to finish the project or get the other piece of equipment. So that will show you the little bit of the gap that we have here. And just as a reminder, some of the projects that we're doing that are included in the CIP this year are the police station land acquisition, Powellfield's restrooms, vehicle replacement in all the enterprise funds and the general fund, general plan update, dog park, Place road construction, there's a big project going on there. We have a few water line replacements, and we're making some larger equipment purchases in Public Works.
Sonia?
Yes.
So yeah, go back to that slide. So when people come up to us and they say, well, you have 11 million, you have 18 million reserve and 6.9 million, that's not money that can be translated to the general fund. That's not what we're talking about. This is for a specific use.
Yeah, this 12 million, just looking at the first line, the $12 million is what we need. Of that 12 million, we only have 2 million.
No, I'm talking about water, wastewater, and solid waste.
Oh, no, these have all been scheduled projects. This is what the funds are intended for. And
Yes.
Yeah, it's a, you can't make money off of the enterprise
Correct.
fund, so basically you can only bring in what you're going to expend out. And if you are making money, then it results in a return of funding to the taxpayers.
To the ratepayers, yeah.
So, yeah, this is still saying this is how much money we need to fund those projects in the next 5 years. But we do have the funding available in all 3 of those.
For water, wastewater, and solid
Correct.
waste. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because, people look at this and they say, we have a lot of money in our budgets, but that's not money that can be translated to say to fix roads.
No,
Yeah.
these monies here are for specific purposes.
Correct.
And when the rates are set, they're based on these projects.
Correct, of the projects that we need in order to function.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
So staff recommends tonight that we hold a public hearing and we adopt the resolution approving the 2018 fiscal budget as submitted, along with the 3 attachments and the corrected version.
Okay,
And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
all right, council, do we have any questions this time? You want me to open the public hearing? Yes, go ahead.
My question was about the UAL, which is some slides back. I do apologize. But you were speaking on the $500,000 split on between the both funds. My question is we're still kind of holding off on that until we get the amortization and everything. So yes. That's just kind of a idea of what we could possibly do until.
Yeah, we're anticipating that. We're anticipating that the payments aren't going to be that much higher. We have talked to PERS. We're going to all the meetings that we can to keep ourselves updated while we wait for the schedule to come out. So the money's there in case for some reason it does increase to a large amount and we can't afford that payment. We did set that aside last year with the budget. If that's not needed, then we will use the money instead to pay down the UAL.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's go to the public hearing on City Council Resolution number 5973. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to council level. And questions, concerns, anything else? Motions? Mr. Silvera? Press that again for me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sonia, again, if we give accolades to you and your staff for putting together, in my opinion, a fiscally sound budget. Something that, we're able to do something for our employees this year. And, you always wish you can do more, but our job as elected officials is to do things that are sustainable. One of the things that I wanted to discuss was the whole issue with health insurance. We sat in a meeting and the projected numbers that CalPERS gave us was that it was going to go up by 25%. And then we find out yesterday that originally they went to the CalPERS board and the CalPERS board told them, whoever those folks are, that's unacceptable. You need to go back and relook at that number and change it or figure something out. So you would think that if they came out with a number of approximately 25% increase, that when they came back, they say, well, maybe they found some room and they could squeeze down a little bit and it was going to be a 20% or a 19% increase. But it ended up being a 9% increase, which we're thankful for because we budgeted for 10, correct? And so it's a little bit frustrating. I don't want the employees to think that we just magically came up with this 25% number and then in order to be able to cap it or doing it, some crazy thing. It's frustrating me how they could be that far off, and it just seems like any time that we kind of, as a city, start making progress, start to dig ourselves out of this hole that, quite honestly, it was decisions that were made 20 years ago that for the next 20 years we're going to be paying for those decisions. And that's fine. We're not the only one that's happened to, but through smart fiscal decisions, we keep trying to dig ourselves out of this hole, and it just seems like CalPERS, every time they do, they just want to kick us right in the teeth and say, nope, sorry, you guys are doing too good over there, and you got to. So, we want to give to our employees. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. They're all hardworking individuals, and they are the backbone of this city. But we were able to do something, and I'm thankful for that. I know that there's obviously probably other people that want to make comments. One of the things that we discussed at a couple meetings ago is I had asked is I would like to make an amendment, and I'll put it in the form of a motion to the budget to add $12,000 in there for the continuum of care, specifically for the continuum of care. And the caveat on that is the money would be put in the budget as a placeholder, barring a presentation from the new organization that will be handling continuum of care. So once they made that presentation, then ultimately it would have to come back to the council for those funds to be released. So I hope the city attorney could make sure that I worded that properly.
So are you making a motion now to adopt the budget with that amendment to it?
Yes, sir. Is that?
As long as that meets Sonia's needs in terms of what she has to do to her paperwork.
I didn't. Okay, I make a motion to adopt.
Actually, I think you're amending the resolution to add that to the resolution.
As long as you guys steer me in the right direction on what exactly, how it needs to be worded.
So I noticed in the resolution, there's a number of line items, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sonia, would it be appropriate to add another one to include Mr. Silvera's request?
Yes, that would be fine.
So then I'll just restate it then.
So it would be amending the resolution to include what you just said as item number subsection 5 to the resolution. So that would be a main motion. You're not amending anyone else's motion.
Okay, so it'd just be a main motion with that added into it?
Correct.
Okay, so then, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt City Council Resolution number 5973, adopting the 2018-19 fiscal year budget, including Employee Salary Schedule Division 4, Personnel Benefits Division 5, Education Incentive Pay Division 5H of the Los Banos Policy and Procedures Manual Capital Improvement Plan, and commit funds for public safety fleet replacement. Also noting that my motion reflects the changes on the Division 5 personnel benefits that were handed to us at the dais, and adding, you're going to call it subsection 5 or 6?
5 to the resolution.
5 to the resolution.
2, I think it would be to commit funds in the amount of $12,000 for the continuum of care, subject to, I didn't quite catch what it was going to be subject to.
Subject to a presentation by that organization, and then having to come back to the council for a vote to release the funds.
Okay, to appropriate the funds, not committing them is completely different. If you could say to appropriate the funds, sorry.
To appropriate the funds.
Okay, do I call for discussion first or before we call for a second?
You can have a second and then discussion. You can, if there's no second, then you don't need any discussion.
Okay, all right. All right, let me call for a second and then we'll have discussion. Okay, do I have a second to Mr. Silvera's motion? Mrs. Lewis?
Mr. Mayor, I was going to call for a point of order for discussion, so I will not be at this time ready to make a second on that motion.
Okay, all right. Mrs. Santos?
I'd like to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, I'm going to call for discussion at this time, and the first one I have is Mr. Faria.
I would ask to amend Mr. Silvera's amendment to set aside $12,000, not specifically for the continuum of care, but to set it aside for homeless services. If it were set aside, in my opinion, for homeless services in a general way, then if we decide that the continuum of care is the proper route, then I could support that. But I cannot support just setting it aside for the continuum of care before I know what kind of a presentation we're going to get from them. So I'm moving to amend his motion.
You have to wait for there to be a second. His
Nope.
motion hasn't even.
It was seconded by Ms. Johnson.
Okay, so you can make a motion to amend, and then you would need a second to your motion, and we would deal with your amendment first.
That's correct. So that's my motion to amend.
Okay, let's go to Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that was my concern, is that at this particular time, I think our chief police gave us a presentation a few weeks ago, probably 2 meetings ago. And I don't even know if there's been anything within the organization to decide how money's going to be spent, where the money's going to come from, whether or not they're going to ask cities to contribute, what the percentage would be. So this is, for me, like putting the cart before the horse, and I can't consciously set aside money for something that we don't know is going to happen and how it's going to happen at this time. I know they're reorganizing and hopefully coming up with a more equitable plan for cities that are within the county of Merced. But at this particular time, I want to hear what their program is going to be, what their requests are going to be to cities, if any at all. So I can't support the original motion at this particular time based on that information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Faria's motion.
No, I'm talking about Mr. Severi's
Let's
motion.
not get confused.
Wait, let me get you on here, Bill.
We
All
need
right.
to talk about, we need to talk about first Mr. Faria's amendment.
Okay, well.
And as I understand, it's to amend Mr. Silvera's motion by setting aside $12,000 for general homeless services?
That's correct.
Subject to anything?
So, yes, to council discretion.
Subject to future council approval?
Yes.
So that's the motion we're dealing with right now.
That amendment.
Okay, well, we were open for discussion, so that's where I stood at this particular time. Mr. Faria brought up a motion under the discussion phase, and I thought I had the opportunity to have further discussion on this.
Okay, so we're waiting for a second for Mr. Faria's motion. If there isn't one, his motion dies.
Okay, did you want to say anything else? Did you want to second Mr. Faria's motion? Okay, I'd like to speak. All right. I've been thinking hard about this and how we can unite the council, how we could do what I think Mr. Silvera is asking, but here's what I can and cannot support. And at this time, the continuum of care has been in operation almost 10 years. They have a 10-year plan to end homelessness, and they're still on page 1 of the continuum of care. It's been through 1, 2, and now this is a third organization that's taken it over. Now, I do feel more secure because our chief is on it. And I feel good that, you know, we have a voice on this committee, and maybe they'll get somewhere, maybe they won't. But at this time, for me to commit $11,000 or $12,000 in funds is putting the cart before the horse, because, you know, I'd like to hear plans. But with me, it's even more than that. With me, it's the use of funds for homeless, for locally, and to reunite people with their families. Because as I talk to the ministers, they tell me that's the number one concern, is that all the homeless people, or the majority of them, have burned bridges with their family. And in burning bridges with their family, you know, we have to find a way to reunite them. Also, we have presentations from battered women. We constantly hear of these horror stories where women need assistance, they need a night's lodging, they need funds in order to keep their organization going. And maybe with this $12,000, we can keep the warming and cooling shelter open another day or two. To me, and include the continuum of care, maybe after a presentation. But I'd like to see, if we're going to put something forward, I'd like to see it include all those aspects. The continuum of care, battered women, the warming and cooling shelter, all these things that make us Los Banos. The continuum of care applies for grants in large amounts. And at this time, as I mentioned last month, or at the last meeting, that the county supports them through their grant funds, the city supports them through their grant funds, but no one in the county supports through their general fund. And it's admirable that when people have extra money that they're going to support this. We don't have extra money, but I think we do have compassion to where we can do things locally. So, Mr. Faria, I could second your motion with a
No, he's already made his motion.
okay. Can I ask for him to amend it?
No, you have to, there's no second on his amendment yet.
Okay.
If his amendment passes, it replaces Mr. Silvera's original motion, and you have to vote on it a second time.
Okay. And then when can I amend to include some of the things I talked about if I second his?
Well, if his is second, then someone can make a motion to amend that amendment, and then we'll have 3 amendments you have to deal with.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry this is so confusing, but I think as a council, if we can come together and we can do something that includes what Mr. Silvera wants to do, include what Mr. Faria wants to do, include what I want to do, I think we can get somewhere. But everyone has a varying opinion. And you know, I'd like to hear presentations from the continuum care at some point. But also I'd like the flexibility for this money to be used. So I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to second Mr. Faria's motion, and let's go from there.
Is there an opportunity for discussion?
Yes, there is, Mr. Silvera, and I don't want to cut you off. Mrs. Lewis, did you have anything else to say?
So did you just second Mr.
I
Faria's-
seconded Mr. Faria's motion.
The amendment is what's on the table.
So
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
so now you can discuss that amendment
Okay,
and vote on it,
okay,
or you can amend the amendment.
okay. And Mr. Faria, state your motion again, just to be clear.
He amended Mr. Silvera's motion,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to, is it appropriate, is that the word, Sonia? Yes. $12,000 for general homeless services, subject to the discretion of the city council.
Does that include local, Mr. Faria?
Yes, that is local. That's primarily local.
Okay,
That is, and I didn't include the word local, and I should have, so,
okay.
I don't know how. we feel about
Would that also include some of the things that I talked about?
that. Yes.
Yes, no problem, no problem. I'll give you your,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mr. Faria, let me turn on your mic. I'm just trying to
No problem. No,
clarify.
Yeah, it was primarily homeless service, local homeless services, and I
Uh-huh.
should have included the word local, and I didn't, but unfortunately, that's what the amendment is
It
on.
presupposes that you're not going to be spending money out of the area.
Okay.
in San Francisco for homeless
That,
services.
that's correct.
Well,
Okay.
that would have made a difference for me to make a second in the beginning, because that verbiage wasn't in the original motion.
And
Okay.
that was
So-
my,
All right,
Yeah.
all right, I'm just trying to clarify his. I'm just trying to,
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that
Okay.
statement that the verbiage wasn't there.
okay.
Yes.
Mr. Silvera still wants to speak, so, before we do anything, so Mr. Faria, just to be perfectly clear, that could include the homeless services and the things that I was concerned about with local distribution?
Yes, and I don't know how we would deal with any changes of verbiage, Mr. Vaughn. We could, if we changed homeless to humanitarian, but I don't know whether that would require an entire reprocessing of the
It's too
amendment.
late now. Mr. Villalta has seconded your motion. and
Very
you
good.
Put it on the table.
Okay, so that's what's on the table.
I have-
Okay, so that's what's on the table, but,
General
that-
general homeless services, subject to the discretion of the city council.
and then that could be defined later, couldn't it, after we come back? For local, he mentioned local or homeless services? Because it has to come back to council for distribution.
I think
Is that
so.
right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. At the discretion of the council.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Silvera.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. So just a couple things. The first thing is that currently, other than police and fire services, we don't do anything as a city for the homeless in Los Banos. We do open up the community the community center for warming and cooling shelters. And so I shouldn't say we don't do anything, but we have never really programmed any money to help with some of those that are, the least fortunate amongst us. And so I appreciate everybody's passion and all their ideas that they have to use this money for. But I would have really been nice that those discussions come up during the budget workshop and brought to then. And so I bring this up, and because I'm telling you, I really think that the money should be programmed for the continuum of care, because I really do believe in the cause and think that what we put into it, we talk about being fiscally responsible. And listen, I've said this before. $12,000 is a lot of money to each individual, but in the grand scheme of things, $12,000 isn't a huge amount of money, okay? When it comes to when you look at our annual budget, general fund, enterprise funds on the upside of $40 million. But I'm going to, in the spirit of compromise, so that there's a hope that, because I believe that the new administrator of Continuum of Care comes to and makes a presentation, and I know our chief is on that committee now, that we will see our way fit to spend that $12,000 on there. But it's really disingenuous to me that we just approved $30,000 in the budget for a dog park that we don't even know where it's going to go. We have some possibilities to study for a dog park, but we're having a hard time spending $12,000 to invest in a program that helps those among us that are the least fortunate. That's sad to me. But I'm telling you, because I appreciate the discussion and everybody's positions. I'm going to go along with it because I feel like my motion is going to die, and at the end of the day, I don't want to hold up our budget over my amendment, because it's important, and I look forward to those folks coming back to us. Continuum of Care, Chief Breezy, if you could pass that along to them. I know I only have I was actually counting. I got like 7 more meetings that I'll be on the council, and I hope that we can get that back to us and make a decision on it then. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Santos?
Well, there's more of a clarification, which is, I guess I wanted to also reason for my seconding of the vote. I do also believe in the continuum of care. And I also want to say that it was pending a presentation, so therefore the council is to vote on it. If the council votes no, it just goes back into the budget. So just wanted to make that statement, but I guess if we are still willing to have the presentation, still willing to see what's going, see what they're gonna get to us, give to us in that presentation, I'm for that.
I don't interpret Mr. Faria's motion to foreclose the expenditure of that money with the continuum of care.
So then as of right now,
It just makes it more general and gives you more discretion than just the continuum of care.
so if they were to come and give us the presentation, and at that time, we'd later have to make another,
You would have to in either case, if either motion passed, and Mr. Frias is the more general, which doesn't designate it strictly for the continuum of care, but it doesn't foreclose you from spending the 12,000 on the continuum of care, as I read the motion.
Okay.
So I think they provide general homeless services.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Fria?
Just a couple of comments. I don't think it's disingenuous. First of all, as far as the dog park goes, that's money coming out of Los Banos, going directly back into Los Banos. So I don't think that's really a congruous discussion. The other point is that way back about 2007, 2008, we gave $25,000 to the rescue mission. When we had the money, we gave it directly to them, and the rescue mission fed a lot of people very successfully. So I wanted to make sure that was in the record, that we have a history of compassion. We do have a history of concern for where that money goes. Even if it's only $12,000 out of a $15 million general fund, we still want to make sure it goes to the people that got taxed in the first place. So those are my comments on that. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Free, I have to concur too, because, not just because I seconded your motion, but because, yes, we do have a history of using those funds locally. And, you know, I get comments all the time about opening the warming and cooling shelter a little bit longer, or what else can we do for battered women, or what else can we do for general people who are not fortunate enough. It's not disingenuous, because we're all here saying that we should do something. And coming together, and thank you, Mrs. Silvera, for saying that, you know, you want to come together on this. And because we all want to come together for the benefit of the most that we see fit of the money that we can use. And I don't see anything disingenuous here. I see us as all coming together to primarily local services. And there are needs. It's almost $1,000 to $1,100 a night to open that the warming shelter. And if the council sees fit and allocates some more money from that money to keep that shelter open a day or two more, that's fantastic. I think we're all saying the same thing. I think we really are. It's just that we want to broaden the scope of how that money's used. And quite frankly, that's why I second it, because I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay, let's go on to Mr. Silvera.
I'd call for the question, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes, yes,
that.
ma'am, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to give my final comments on that. And as Mr. Faria stated, and the mayor has also stated, my position on this is if we're going to allocate this money, I want to make sure that it's going to help people in the Los Banos area. Now, if the consortium comes back and says, you know, this is what the plan is going to be and X amount of dollars is going to help Los Banos, and if this council decides that's what they want to fund, then so be it. But I'm very concerned that we do make sure that the people in Los Banos are taken and that we're taken care of, and that we're not just putting money in a general pot again, and monies are distributed to the other parts of the county, and nothing is realized in the Los Banos area. So I want to thank Mr. Faria for clarifying the motion that he made, and I'll be in preparation to support that. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
So I just want to clarify, when we say the money spent locally, that doesn't prevent the money from being spent in continuum of care, because it sounds like
Yeah.
one of my colleagues up here feels that if it says locally, it only can be spent in Los Banos, and I cannot support something that is going to say that it only will be spent in Los Banos, because the whole intention of my original motion was to make the funds available if this council saw fit to put it to continuum of care. I just want to clarify that, because
The word locally wasn't part of the motion. This was general homeless services.
perfect, thank you.
Okay. So what it does, Mr. Silvera, is expand your motion into a number of areas, which could include the continuum care and which could include all the services that we talked about. And it gives this council, my wife always gets mad at me because I can't pronounce that word, the flexibility to do that. Mr. Freer, am I saying that correctly?
Exactly my intent.
Okay, all right. Do you want to say anything else? Okay, so, okay, all right. So I'm going to try and interpret the first and seconds and whatever. So we're voting on the motion.
We're voting on Mr. Faria's
Motion.
motion to amend.
Correct.
Mr. Silvera's motion.
You're a good teacher, I got that, Bill.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So we're voting on Mr. Faria's motion to amend. And Mr. Faria's motion, I second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Unanimously carried.
Now, wait a minute. Now Mr. Faria's motion becomes the main motion.
Wait a minute, let's turn your mic on here. Okay, go ahead.
Now, Mr. Faria's motion amends Mr. Silvera's motion, and that is the motion on the table now.
Along with the budget motion?
Yes.
Yes. So we are approving everything.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
You're approving the resolution, whatever the number is, with the subsection 5
Okay.
as amended by Mr. Faria's motion, which you have approved.
Okay. Mr. Silvera, would you like to make that motion? Okay, I mean, with the budget, could you approve that? Okay, and Mr. Free?
It's already been, okay, go ahead. It's just time to vote on it.
Yes, I know that.
There's no motion to make.
Okay, I was just wanted to.
Motion's been made and amended, it's ready to
Give Mr.
vote.
Silvera the opportunity, that's all. Okay, so with that, then if there's no more discussion, am I good?
Call for a vote.
All right, we're going to call for the vote on the resolution, City Council Resolution Number 5973, as read by title with Mr. Faria's amendment. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Thank you all, Council. Thank you. All right, let's go on to public hearing, item C. To receive public comment, consideration of levying properties for weed abatement services performed during the fiscal year 2017, 2018, or prior for areas of land located in the city of Los Banos, Merced County, as follows. Assessors parcel number 026-082-002, 027-081-007, 027-086-009, 082-310-042, 083-262-001, 083-390-026, 424-024-003, 424-066-031, 431-121-034, 431-141-021. And City Council Resolution Number 5974, authorizing the levy and collection of assessments for weed abatement within the city of Los Banos. And let's go on to, is there anyone, let's see, who's going to make this? Finance Director Williams. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, it is. So tonight I'm asking for you to authorize the levy and collection of the assessments for weed abatement that the mayor just listed out. There are 10 assessments that we will be adding to the tax roll. We do this on an annual basis, and basically anything that's 90 days or more past due from the last year when we liened the property, we're allowed to add to the tax roll. We are required to notice the public hearing, and this was published on in the Enterprise on both June 1st and June 8th. There are fees associated with assessing the tax roll. There is a $50 admin fee to place the assessments on the tax roll, and then they charge us 35 cents in addition to that for each fee, for each assessment. So there's 10 assessments. So the total cost there would be $53.50. And the total amount of the 10 the 10 items being placed on the tax roll is $3,384.22. And again, this is for weed abatements that went unpaid 90 days or more prior to last year's assessment.
Okay. Any questions from council at this time? Can I open a public hearing? All right. Public hearing on City Council Resolution number 5974. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to council level. And do I have a motion on Mrs. Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 597 as read by title.
Mr. Freya?
Second.
Motion by Lewis, second by Faria to approve City Council Resolution number 5974. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Item 9, cancellation of regular City Council meetings scheduled for Wednesday, July 4th, 2018, due to the 4th of July holiday. And this is a simple action motion. Do I have a motion to approve this? Mr. Freya?
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Santos?
Second.
Motion by Faria, second by Santos to approve item 9, cancellation of regular City Council meeting on July 4th. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Advisement of public notices, item number 10, no report. Number 11, city manager's report. Let's go to our city manager, Alex Terrazas.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953C3, Executive Compensation, the City Council, as part of Agenda Item 8B, adopted the 2018-19 fiscal year budget, which included approving a 2.5% salary increase for unrepresented miscellaneous full-time employees, which include the city manager and department heads. And also wanted to take a moment to thank the finance department staff, other city staff in preparation of the budget you adopted this evening. Behind the scenes, there were hours and hours worth of work, hours and hours worth of effort pouring over columns and columns worth of spreadsheets. So thank you to the finance department staff, thank you to the other departmental staff, and thank you to you, the city council, for approval of the budget tonight. That's it.
Thank you. It's so easy to get it wrong, and you guys get it right. Thank you. All right, let's go on to city council member reports, and tonight we'll start with Mr. Silvera. Hang on just 1 minute here. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Again, thank you to all the staff, but in particular this evening, it's our finance staff on the work that they do on the budget. I know I've spent some time with you guys in there and going over the numbers. And again, you know, we're a healthy city. We're not a wealthy city. I think it's through smart fiscal decisions that have kind of put us in that position. But something that we have to all be cautious of is that the way that I see it, the cost of doing business is increasing at a higher rate than what our revenues are coming in. And until those lines start to, instead of opening like an alligator, kind of go the other way a little bit, where our revenues coming in are outpacing just the cost of doing business, it's going to continue to be a tough battle. And what that's going to take is as a city, as a council, as department heads, we got to start making investments into our future. And how are we going to grow revenues? We are never going to be able to build our way out of this kind of path we're on. We have to, at some point, we have to start making investments into our future to, find ways to increase. I mean, you looked at the budget earlier, you saw the pie chart that shows you our two biggest funding sources are property tax and sales taxes. And I don't think that property taxes on homes are going to be enough. How do we start to bring some business? And I know that Stacy's working hard over there, and we've been working with some folks, but it's going to take, some guidance and some leadership to be able to make these investments and look our taxpayers in the face and tell them that we're investing their money into trying to make Las Vegas something other than it is right now. And it's a great community. I'm born and raised here. I love this community, but we got to try something different. We got to try it. We got to try to, we talk about airport relocation and what the possibilities are there with that property. We talk about an industrial park. We just we have to keep moving with that. Building is going to happen. Something that, I'm just going to throw it out there is, one of the things is having the benefit of hindsight, right? There's people that were here, good people that made decisions before I got here. But one of the things that Las Vegas typically did as they annexed property was they annexed property in small blocks. And then when we're out there and folks are talking about they want these amenities for their community. They want swimming pools. They want water complexes, sports complexes, all those things. Well, when you look at development, I can tell you that in the state of California, there's a shortage of housing, and the state legislature is trying to make it easier for developers to build. That's just the way that it's going to be, and we're not going to change that locally. So we have to try to embrace it a little bit. And so it's just food for thought is when I'll just make up a number here. You annex 50 acres of property into the city limits of Las Vegas, and you can build, let's say, 100 housing units on there. Well, that developer, those amenities that you ask and want, they can spread the cost of those amenities over those 100 housing units. Whereas if you get to a point where you look at, instead of doing 4 or 5 50-acre annexations, look at annexing one block of land, understanding that it's not going to all be built out in 2 or 3 years. It could take 20 years to build out that development, but that's called it's a master plan development. So you already know in advance what that development's going to look like over the next 20 years as it takes to build it. But then when you ask for those amenities, you want that sports complex, you want those things. Now you're giving that developer a realistic possibility that they can stretch the cost of doing that over 1,000 housing units versus 100 housing units. It's just simple numbers, And so I equate it to being in the dairy business. If you're milking, it takes a tractor and a feed wagon to feed cows. If you feed 1,000 cows, well, you get to spread that cost of that equipment over 1,000 cows. If you're milking 200 cows, the cost of the equipment is still the same. It's just your cost per cow investment that it goes up. So it's just simple numbers. These are all things that I see coming down the road. And again, I said it earlier, I'm excited for the opportunity that's in front of me, and kind of represent our city at a different level. But it's crazy, man. I was just looking at that. I have 7 council meetings over the next few months that because I'm guessing I'm taking into that the September meeting, if typical people that go to the League of Cities conference go, there won't even be a majority left here, so they'll cancel that meeting. So it'll be 7 council meetings, and I'm still going to continue to work as hard as I did the first day I got elected, but with just a little bit more knowledge now, and hopefully take that stuff on to me with the next level. But again, finance staff, thank you. Congratulations to all the members of the fire department that were able to make promotions, and just remember the pets, when they brought up about 4th of July pets, it's every year. I mean, I have a friend lives around the corner from me who actually moved his dogs out to the ranch because the fireworks just absolutely make those dogs go bonkers. My mom lost her dog last year on 4th of July. Luckily, we got her back. So just be cautious of your pets. And so we won't see you now until after the 4th of July. So I want to wish everybody happy Independence Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to Mr. Faria.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had Flag Day. We didn't have our usual service in here, but we saw the flags around town. I want to thank the veterans for putting those up for our special patriotic holidays. It really brightens the town. And And then we have Independence Day, that 4th of July holiday, the birthday of the country. No one ever want to forget that the fact when they adopted it on the 4th of July, they didn't sign their names to it. It took a long time to get it all signed, but every person that signed that thing signed his own execution warrant had he been caught by the British government. And the question we have to ask ourselves every day is, would we have been brave enough to do such a thing? And what they were fighting for was the ability to do what we do here, and we do here every couple of weeks, and we did here tonight. We had a little bit of disagreement, but that disagreement generates thoughtful questions and conversations, and generates the questions that cause us to really dig deeper and find better answers. And so we're very thankful for that gathering of geniuses in Philadelphia that summer. Finance, fantastic job. It's our job to ask for stuff, and your job to tell us what we can and can't have. It's essentially the way it works, and you've been doing a really nice job of it. Very pleased to see we were able to budget the Boys and Girls Clubs. I dropped in and saw that. Made me very, very happy to watch that program operating. It's very, very exciting to see. I've asked for it for so long. It really warms my heart to see it finally happen. Financing, I won't. We'll talk about that again another time, thinking about LLDs and that sort of thing, but that's some other stuff. Fire, the promotions and the new hire, congratulations. You run into the fires when the rest of us run away from them. Thank you for your bravery, as with everyone who serves. Have a wonderful 4th of July.
Okay, Mrs. Santos. Thank you, Mr. Freer.
Thank you. I want to echo many of the sentiments here. Thank you, Finance. There's a lot of talking going up here, and you guys do all the magic behind the scenes, so thank you so much for what you do. Once again, congratulations, Scott. You'll do wonderful over there, and hope everybody has a wonderful 4th of July.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Chief, congratulations to your new hiree in your department. I'm sure he'll do well. Matter of fact, the day that he had his pinning, I made a few stops in town, and on my way home, he was already out on the streets taking care of something. So job well done. Last Friday, I went over to the community center, and I too observed the Boys and Girls Club in action, and talked to staff, and they were telling me that the children were having a great time and enjoying themselves being in the Boys and Girls Club, and I think there'll be a second session this summer. We appropriated funds for 2 years to fund this program, and at this particular time, it's been money well spent, and I was really happy to see that these children were enjoying themselves and that the staff felt really positive about what was going on. So congratulations to Merced for coming over and assisting us in starting this Boys and Girls Club. Sonia and your finance department, thank you again for all your hard work. I wouldn't want to do the job. Numbers is not my game, but you guys do a wonderful job at what you do and make life easy for us up here to make decisions as we move forward with the finances for the city of Los Banos. And I just want to wish everyone a happy 4th of July, and please be cognizant of what our fire chief and our chief of police has shared with you in regards to using safe and sane fireworks, as well as what the penalty is for using illegal fireworks. So support our local organizations and our youth groups here in Los Banos by purchasing your safe and sane fireworks at the booths that will be available before the 4th of July. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You know, when people come up to speak at the public forum, I can tell you this council is listening, and that retired employee that came up, and it's good news that things aren't changing at this point. And so our city manager is going to contact him and let him know, what happens. So all the straight information is given. So we do make personal contacts, and I think that's our job up here, all 5 of us, and city manager, everyone, all the city staff. They constantly make phone calls to try and explain what's going on, and so your requests don't fall on deaf ears. hopefully we can fix the situation. Sometimes we can't. But I can tell you, these people are compassionate. No one gets up in the morning and says, how can I make a citizen mad today? I don't think anyone gets up with that attitude. So I'm happy, he came to talk, and we're going to get him an answer. And I think it's important, and our top guy's going to let him know. So the fireworks presentation, thank you, chiefs, for doing that. We don't want to fine anyone, but if people don't listen, that's kind of our only option. So please be safe out there with the fireworks, and when you can set them off, and when you're not supposed to set them off, the safe and sane fireworks, that is. Budget, what can I say? Thank you again, staff. I'm just so pleased, and you're the unsung heroes that are not up here getting the praise that you should get. So thank you so much, and I think everyone appreciates that. We have to keep our city going, and sometimes the decisions aren't what we want them to be, but they have to be within our budget. So and hopefully we'll be able to do some things and to add some amenities. And our budget is recovering, but it's not recovering at the pace that where we could go out and have a whole bunch of excess money. But the excess money we do have, we're going to put towards good use and be good stewards of what you've entrusted us to do as elected officials. The flag days. There are flags all over town, and the vets have it down because they have lists. They have a caravan of people to put out those flags. They get up at 5:45 in the morning to put out the flags and get them done. And some of the routes have 50 to 100 flags with drivers and companions who know the route after all these years. And so vets, thank you. The town looks great, and thank you for putting out the flags. Boys and Girls Club. We have room for more boys and girls at the Boys and Girls Club. There are about 50 right now. We can handle more kids who would like to be in an all-day program. It is a wonderful program, and that's what the community center was meant to do. That's what it was meant to house. It was supposed to be a community center, community for our youth, and that's what it's turned out to be. So after all these years, Mr. Faria, you and I are probably, because we were there on the inception, and so now it's being used for what it should be used for. So that's fantastic. Now, they say the first thing to go is your hearing. Now, Mr. City Manager, I'm hearing a radio station, and I checked with a younger member of our group, Mrs. Santos. And Mrs. Santos hears the radio.
I heard it too. As soon as you wrap up, and check it out.
I just wanted to know if it was just me. I'm a little bit worried because I thought it was just me. So when a younger member of our group with better hearing heard it, I feel okay now. So, Mr. Freed, do you want to say something?
Oh, no, I hear it too.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
I assume you were referring to me with the younger member.
No, I was not. Okay. No, I was not. Okay. All right. So with that, please be safe out there for 4th of July. Let's go on to adjournment, item 13. Adjourn to Tuesday, July 10th, 2018 at 6 p.m. to attend a workshop to discuss potential local funding measure and review community needs and priorities being held in the council chambers, 520 J Street, Los Banos, California. And with that, I would need, let me get out all this. Okay, I need a motion to do so. Can I please have one? Mrs. Lewis, you're first.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting as stated.
Okay, Mr. Faria.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Lewis, second by Faria to adjourn to Tuesday, July 10th, 2018, 6 p.m. here to discuss potential local funding measure priorities. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? None carried. Meeting adjourned at 8:54.